Good morning. Happy April 1st. It is April 2021, the month that I've been saying everything opens up. And I think that's going to turn out to be pretty much true. Also, we're coming up on a year of doing these videos. I think I'd have to look. My mother knows this. It's either April 11th or April 17th. I think it's April 17th that I did my first video. I remember I took you out on my walk. I did my morning routine. So we went out on the walk where it was super dark and did the breathing and all of that stuff. That was the first video. It seemed like a good idea at the time. So let's finish up or at least come to the next step of the stock market. The famous Ray Dalio bucket system. So first of all, who is Ray Dalio? Do you know who Ray Dalio is? Well, if you haven't heard of him, he's really probably the greatest investor of all time, probably better than Warren Buffett. And that's because his setup with his money is different than Warren Buffett. How Warren's set up, how he gets his money is just completely brilliant. And Ray managed a straight hedge fund. So you probably haven't heard of him because his hedge fund has been closed for years. And when it was open, you had to have $100 million in order to get to it. And Ray's a very private guy. I've actually had the chance to meet Ray. He's a very private guy. He's a very humble guy. But he is an extraordinary investor, and he was always able to beat everybody else. And even in years when the stock market took a big hit, he still did okay. And nobody was really sure how he did his system. And he wouldn't tell anybody how he did his system. And then Tony Robbins did Money Master the Game, and he went and interviewed lots of people, including Ray, and he got Ray to give him his secret. And when it was published, at first people didn't believe it because it was so simple. People were like, that can't be what the secret is. But then Ray came out and confirmed that's what the secret was. So Ray Dalio divided his investments into either 3 or 4 buckets. You had the conservative bucket, the middle of the road bucket, and then the risky bucket. And sometimes he would divide the conservative bucket into 2 separate things, okay? So the conservative bucket is things that are very conservative investments, and usually they're investments that are tied to the market going down or to recessions or to inflation. So that would be gold and silver. That would be collectibles like art, watches, high-end, things like that. Now, some people will divide that bucket into that category and then also like real estate. If you invest in like real estate, if you actually own real estate, or for Ray, he didn't own real estate, so it would be real estate investment trusts, REITs. So he did 2 buckets, one for precious metals and collectibles, which mostly for him was precious metals. Some people would now put crypto in with the precious metals, believe it or not. Some people consider crypto at that level now. It's amazing how quickly that's happened. Some people are going to put it in the last bucket. But you could also do 2 buckets, one for real estate and one for the precious metals. Up to you, depends on how you invest. Ray put them together because he didn't own real estate. He owned REITs, real estate investment trusts. So gold, silver, collectibles, REITs, 1 bucket. Bucket number 2, your main investments. So this is Apple, this is Facebook, this is Caterpillar, this is Qualcomm, this is Cisco, this is Clorox. This is your dollar cost average diversified stock market portfolio. Then the last bucket is risky investments. So this is where some people would put crypto. So some people would put crypto in that bucket. This is long shot stock picks, Tesla, Virgin Galactic, any of the SPACs that have just come out. If he owned any startup companies that he was hoping for an IPO, If he owned an interest in a company that was trying to get itself to go public or trying to invent something, these were risky assets. These are rockets, right? These are where you're trying to hit 1 out of 10, but the 1 out of 10 goes up 1,000% kind of thing. So that's the last bucket. Then he divided up how much of his portfolio he wanted to put in each bucket. So like, let's say he did 4 buckets and you had metals, real estate, stocks, and then risky stocks. So you might do, 5% in metals, 20% in real estate, 50% in the stock market portfolio, and then 25%, if I did the math right, in the risky portfolio. Or, your stock market portfolio might be 60%, and you take the other percentages down. For him, his stock market portfolio was 60 to 70% because that was the majority of what he managed. Some of that should be your age. As you get older, the first buckets should grow. But and when you're younger, the first bucket should be smaller and the latter 2 buckets should be bigger. But whatever, you pick your percentages, okay? And you set those. So my stock market bucket's going to be 50%. My real estate bucket's going to be 20%. Or my real estate bucket's going to be 50%. And my stock market bucket's going to be 20%. Metals are going to be 5%, and risky's going to be, I don't know, whatever that adds up to, 25. I don't know. But you set up your numbers, and then here was the brilliance of what he did. Amazing how the most brilliant things are the most simple. At the end of every year, he would figure out what the percentages were for each bucket. So if it was supposed to be, 25, 50, 25, and he got done at the end of the year, and his stock market portfolio was 60, and the risky stuff was 20, and something else here had dropped, metals had dropped, he forced himself to sell out of the bucket that had gone up and buy out of the buckets that had dropped. Well, what did that do? That forced you to buy low and sell high. So he didn't look at the individual stocks and decide, and you should always do that. You should always have a goal in mind with stocks, but let's face it, sometimes things just keep going and they just keep going. But what it made him do is look at the overall market, and if that bucket got too high, so if all of a sudden metals that was supposed to be at 5% went to 8%, well, then he had to sell 3%. And if the risky stuff dropped, well, then it forced him to buy. It forced him to buy low and sell high at the end of every year. And so, long-term investors will tell you you can never predict the market and you can never pick the top or the bottom. So by doing that, and then he got big enough that he started doing it every quarter. But initially he did it every year, and you can too. So you figure out where your buckets are on your investments, and then just look at the end of every year. And if all of a sudden metals are up, well, then you're going to have to sell some metals and you're going to have to buy something else. If you listen to Mr. Wonderful on CNBC, he does this now because he talked about how he bought some Bitcoin, or he bought some Tesla on the advice of his the guy who I think ended up becoming his son-in-law. And it shot up so much that he sold some because it became too much of his portfolio. So he said it got too big in his bucket, so he sold it. And he said, I sold it before it was at the top, but it forced him to take gains. Jim Cramer in his first book said, bulls make money, bears make money, pigs get slaughtered. Meaning that whatever way you play the market, you can make money. You can if you're betting that the market's going up or you're betting that the market's going down. If the market's open, you can make money. But you have to be disciplined and patient and take your money when the time is right, and not go, not be the guy on the roulette table that keeps his bet out there saying, I was just gonna take my bet down right after he lost. So this bucket system forces you to sell in certain areas, and then buy in other areas. Forces you to buy low and to sell high. Absolutely brilliant. So divide up your investments into your buckets, figure out your percentages, and then stick to your percentages. And then you can adjust your percentages as you get older if you want, but the system stays the same, that every year you evaluate and you adjust. Brilliant system, great system, and a great way to keep things balanced. Also a great way to show you how you're growing and to keep score. Beautiful stuff. Hope you have a great day, everybody. Happy April 1st, April Fool's Day. No fooling. We're all in this together. Let's take care of each other. Thanks for watching.